Hey, good morning, guys. My daily brief video, early morning video, I'm sorry. Please like the video if you like it on YouTube, if you get a chance. It doesn't really matter to me. It just helps me on my upload speeds and stuff if I get a lot of likes on it and stuff. But bottom line is the big news this morning is Salesforce. Elliott Management came in there as an activist. He's took a big stake to make changes in the company. A lot of times, a scenario like this can cause a massive gamma squeeze. So I'm actually looking at some point this week a price 170 here on that's your diagonal pivot. So as you can see here, we have been building out a head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders, and so that is a diagonal pattern. You can draw a rectangle in that diagonal. So the pivot, the midline pivot of that diagonal is right up here around the 170 area. So given the news, I could definitely see us gamma squeeze into that pivot area initially, if not even blow right through it. So this is one of the top ones I'm looking at this week. A potential gamma squeeze to kick off the week here in that. Okay, guys, on the ESs, we are currently right into a diagonal pivot to start the week. So be careful. You don't want to assume we're going to continue higher because we did have OPEX Friday. A lot of times they'll get people directionally in the wrong direction just to blow it up right after options expiration. So, but it's looking promising that we're going to soon cross to the bullish side of our current diagonal we're trading in. So up here is about the diagonal high, okay, and then down here is your diagonal low, okay. So we're right basically 50% of the range, trying to decide whether or not we want to be uber bullish into this earnings season. Okay. But, they did take us where they logically should take us for equilibrium into these major earnings. So be mindful of that. What I do I got the monthly pivots on here. And so what we are doing here is let me go change my chart real quick. Sorry about that. I might have to. I got the monthly pivots on this chart right here. I got to take us down where you can see it. Okay, guys. I'm going to zoom in here where you guys can see it. I got a lot of garbage on here. And so, wait a minute here. 1 second. Okay, real quick here. So I've got the monthly pivots on my chart, knowing it's earnings season. So I really watch these monthly levels. So we are in the bullish side of our monthly pivot. Okay, we did that Friday. So we're only one day in here, the bullish side of our monthly pivot. Okay, we are above, I guess I drew these backwards. We are above the 23.6. Okay, and we still have not tagged the 38.2, which should be right here. Again, I'm drawing backwards. Uh, so just keep that in mind. And we have a trend line right here. So odds are, given knowing that this trend line's right here, we're probably going to be coming up into that next monthly pivot area. So I'm leaning a little bit more to the bullish side because of where that trend line is in relation to these monthly pivots. Okay. Okay, another thing. So looks like we're going to be about break even here on the open, if not rallying, here in the pre-market. So basically, we're 50% of the range from the monthly pivot to R1 on our monthly time frame. We're into uh, a diagonal pivot. Very important. That's a bull bear cross from one zone to another, and a trend line. Okay. So, it does look like we might early on this week be getting a hard test at or above that trend line at some point early on this week before all the data does come out. So I definitely want to keep that in the back of your mind here going forward. Okay. Uh, even our on the 4 hour time frame, even our MAs down here on the volume and stuff are still, they haven't rolled over, so we are still looking like bullish indications. But the main takeaway, we're above our monthly pivot point. So that means momentum traders are still quite active in the sector. It's whenever you get below the on the indices. When the indices start getting below that monthly pivot, then interest from the momentum traders dries up. Okay, and we currently do have that bullish scenario going on here on the Nasdaq. Okay, guys, let me zoom in here real quick so you can see it. So our monthly pivot's way down here. We are into R1 resistance on the monthly time frame. This one here is showing the most relative strength, which typically you would see in January anyway. Okay, so you are above your monthly pivot. So momentum traders are trying to buy the dip at every time, because we are above that monthly pivot. So, that's why buying the dip is still the primary scenario, in these markets. Okay, so yeah, this thing here that could very well be pinned here, starting the week, but definitely we want to keep this one on watch. We are into a resistance area, but our primary resistance and trend line are quite a bit still higher. So very easily we could be breaking out above our monthly R1 early on this week. Now the dog of the indices, that's your Dow Jones here. We are below our monthly pivot. That's why we're seeing relative underperformance in some of the main stocks in this area. Okay, so this is the one area that if they want to play catch up uh, to drive prices higher into these major earnings. So this is the one area that still can show some life to the upside into. I would say your monthly pivot is very significant resistance. So definitely want to keep this one on watch into in today's session. Okay, so I definitely want to watch this. So that's your Apple's, Boeing, United Healthcare, those stocks. Even Microsoft, I think, is a Dow Jones component, if I remember right. Those are the ones that are most likely to impact this portion of the market. So, but there's only 30 stocks there, so definitely keep that one in the back of your mind. Okay. Another one of great interest today, that is our Tesla. So I do have a downtrend line, okay, that literally is touching our monthly pivot today. And here we are at range highs. We show relative strength this morning in Tesla. This kind of resonates with me that they're going to try early today to reach that trend line and that monthly pivot. So I really look for those X crosses in the market. So this one here is really one of my primary scenarios that I am looking for a pre-earnings run-up. Uh, so I don't know if it's valid or not. I'm just saying I could definitely see this scenario, them wanting to get back to the monthly pivot right before the earnings come out. Okay. So NVIDIA is sort of leading the charge to the upside here on big tech. I do want to keep that in mind. We are above R1. As of Friday, we broke out above it. Didn't look back. We are into a resistance area, which is also a neckline. We had a head and shoulders breakdown. So we are getting back into that neckline area of NVIDIA. Personally, the risk reward to me is not really there to be chasing this one here. If I was doing something, I would still prefer like a Tesla or an Apple or something like that. But this thing here, we are up into the neckline, head and shoulders breakdown area. Let's see here on NVIDIA. So Apple initially here is showing rejection of a downtrend line. Okay, so we would definitely want to keep this one as a top watch today. If we break above pre-market highs here on Apple, I think it's a long here. So definitely keep this on watch. We are above our monthly pivot. We closed above it Friday. Relatively strong with the rest of the market, but we got to really wait for the pre-market highs to get taken out before I'm really going to start getting uber bullish. And remember, the Dow itself is below the monthly pivot. But I think they're going to take it back up into it for these big earnings. And if that's the case, Apple and some of these other stocks that are lagging, they might be playing some catch up into that scenario. And the last one I'm talking about today, Amazon's looking quite constructive here going into these earnings. We got a gap above us. Okay. And we do have uh, resistance around the $100 range. Okay. It's 78.6 retracement. We're at 97.86. Every time, it looks like we've, you know, yeah, we tend to migrate back up to the 103 whenever we do rally, whenever we do get momentum. So just keep that one in mind with a gap right above us here. So this is another candidate, in my opinion, that we're going to come up to this gap area into earnings. So definitely keep that one on watch as well. So that pretty much sums up what I've got going on here. So we know that we have a dollar. Let's see where's dollar at this morning. So we are slightly down on the dollar, so that's bullish to markets. And let's look at ZT. 2 years down as well. Hell, the 2 years down. Uh, is that a 0.5%? Can't really read it. Yeah, two years down. So, yeah. So everything's looking pretty bullish here for the markets. You don't want to really load the vote to the short side, in my opinion.